Chapter 1: The Disappearance. Dr. Isabella Clarke was not just any physicist, she was a trailblazer in quantum mechanics, a field shrouded in enigma and potential. Her work often pushed the boundaries of what was believed possible, but it was her recent research that had begun to attract not just scholarly attention, but also whispers of incredulity and concern. One sunny morning, the tranquility of Bell Institute was shattered. Isabella Clarke was supposed to present her findings in a keynote speech. The auditorium was filled with eager faces waiting to hear her speak about her revolutionary theories on quantum entanglement. But minutes turned into hours, and there was no sign of her. The dean, trying to calm the murmuring crowd, apologized for the delay, citing an emergency. Rumors began to swirl. Some speculated that Isabella was finalizing a crucial part of her research. Others feared for her safety. While the crowd dispersed, one person remained unshaken by the growing anxiety. Dr. Clarke's protégé, Ethan Turner, hurriedly made his way to her lab. Ethan was a rising star himself, having closely worked with Isabella since his postgraduate days. He knew her routines, her obsessions, and her secrets. If anyone could figure out what happened, it was him. Ethan burst into the lab, a controlled chaos of advanced machinery and scattered papers. But what immediately caught his attention was the still humming quantum array, a massive contraption Isabella had often referred to as the Nexus. She had recently started spending countless hours with the Nexus, claiming it held the key to something monumental. His mind raced through possibilities. Could she have disappeared because of an experiment gone wrong? Ethan approached the Nexus, the air around it feeling slightly charged, like the atmosphere before a storm. He was about to shut it down when he noticed her journal on the desk, open to a fresh page, with a single phrase hastily scrawled, "Temporal Breach." His breath caught. A temporal breach? Time and space manipulation were theoretical underpinnings of their work, but if she had really managed to breach temporal boundaries... He shook his head, focusing. Isabella had always left clues in her notes. Ethan sifted through the journal, following the trail of complex equations and half-finished thoughts. Hours passed, the lab growing dimmer with the setting sun. He pieced together fragments of her research, his heart pounding with each revelation. He found references to alternate dimensions, to intersecting realities, but little that explained what had actually transpired. Then he noticed one last entry in the journal, almost overlooked. Prototype successful. The window is open, but how stable? Ethan's eyes widened as he realized the implications. The Nexus had not just opened a window into another reality, it had likely transported Isabella through it. With mounting resolve, he knew he had to follow her steps, no matter how perilous. Determined, Ethan set to work recalibrating the Nexus. He fed in the data from Isabella's notes, making connections where she had left off. The machine hummed louder, its mechanisms glowing with an unearthly light. As he activated the final sequence, the air in the room began to warp and shimmer. Ethan took a deep breath and stepped forward, hoping to bridge the temporal breach and find his mentor. The lab vanished around him, replaced by a swirling vortex of light and shadow. Ethan felt a disorienting pull, as if the world was unraveling and reforming simultaneously. And then, with a blinding flash, everything went dark. Chapter 2: The Artifact. When consciousness returned, Ethan found himself sprawled on a cold metallic floor. The room around him was bathed in an eerie, ambient glow that seemed to emanate from the very walls. Groaning, he pushed himself up and took in his surroundings. He was no longer in the familiar confines of Isabella's lab. The space was both alien and familiar, as if a shadowy mirror of the world he knew. The hum of machinery was present here too, but it carried a different resonance, a deeper, almost melodic hum. As his eyes adjusted to the new light, he noticed an array of strange devices and consoles, subtly glowing with both colors and symbols he couldn't immediately reconcile with any known technology. At the room's center, on a pedestal, sat a strange, luminous object. Unlike anything Ethan had ever seen, it pulsed gently with a light that seemed to shift through the spectrum, casting kaleidoscopic patterns on the walls. Drawn to it, he approached cautiously. A fleeting thought crossed his mind, wondering if this could be what Isabella had left behind, a clue to her whereabouts or perhaps to the nature of the universe she had breached. Ethan reached out, hesitating for a moment before his fingers brushed the artifact's cool surface. Immediately, a surge of energy arced through him, as visions and fragments of information flooded his mind. Images of parallel worlds, of branching timelines, and of Isabella working frantically in a place much like this one. He stumbled back, gasping, but the object continued to pulse rhythmically. It was then he realized it wasn't just an artifact, it was a beacon, a repository of knowledge left for him to find. Determined to decode the artifact, Ethan began examining the room more closely. He found his way to one of the consoles, noting the alien yet intuitive controls. As he tentatively began to interact with it, symbols and lines of data burst to life on the screen. Among the alien scripts, some familiar patterns and formulas began to emerge, thanks to his and Isabella's extensive studies. It took hours of cross-referencing Isabella's notes, but Ethan finally began to piece together the interface. The artifact, it seemed, was a map, a guide through the labyrinth of interwoven realities. It showed pathways, each glowing line indicating a potential route through the multiverse. The task before him was to find the correct path, the one that Isabella had taken. As he continued to analyze the data, a point on the map glowed brighter than the rest. It pulsed in sync with the artifact's rhythms, indicating a strong quantum signature, like the one generated by the Nexus. This had to be it. This was where she had gone. Armed with this new information, Ethan tried to decipher how he could follow her. The console's interface offered hints in the form of calculations and diagrams. With a deep breath, Ethan initiated the sequence, feeding the data from the artifact into the console. The room's light intensified, pulsating ever more rapidly. The energy built up to a crescendo, and just as suddenly, the room filled with a blinding flash. When the light subsided, he was still there, but the energy field around the artifact had changed. Ethan felt a peculiar sensation in his body, like a subtle vibration aligning with the room's hum. Noticing one last notation on the console, Ethan understood. The pathway was open. Gathering his resolve, he reached out and touched the artifact once more. This time, the energy embraced him without resistance, and he felt himself being pulled through the veil separating realities. His surroundings disintegrated into a cascade of energy and light. Streams of existence merged and diverged around him, and Ethan could sense the infinite possibilities of the quantum multiverse. Suddenly, the flow stabilized, and he found himself standing in a new, yet all too familiar environment. He had made it. But where exactly was this place? He glanced around and realized he stood in what seemed like another version of Bell Institute. But everything was subtly different, the air charged with a different kind of energy, the building's design slightly altered. He was now in a parallel universe, and Isabella was somewhere within it. The artifact had brought him a step closer. Now it was up to him to find her and uncover the secrets she had discovered. The journey had only just begun. Chapter 3: Quantum Leap. Ethan stood motionless for a moment, absorbing the surreal tranquility of the alternate Bell Institute. The strangeness of his new surroundings made his quest to find Isabella all the more urgent. With the strange artifact now tucked securely in his satchel, he began to explore. His familiar steps on the unfamiliar ground felt both comforting and disorienting. The hallways, though almost identical to his own reality, were marked by subtle differences. A slightly different shade of paint, unfamiliar portraits on the walls, and people he recognized but who somehow seemed different. Ethan purposefully navigated through the corridors until he reached what should have been Isabella's lab. The door, recognizable by the worn brass plaque that read Dr. Isabella Clarke, was still there, but the lab inside was markedly different. In this alternate timeline, the lab was even more advanced, filled with machines and apparatus that seemed ahead of his world's technology by at least a decade. As he examined the room, he felt a mixture of awe and confusion. How had this world advanced so far ahead of his own? What had driven Isabella to this level of innovation? He noticed a terminal that appeared to be the control hub of the lab. As he activated it, the screens illuminated with streams of complex data. Ethan's eyes scanned the directories, searching for any sign of Isabella's recent work. There, in the encrypted files, he found an entry titled Project Quantum Leap. His pulse quickened, recognizing the name from the scattered notes back in his reality. Decrypting the files, He found a wealth of information detailing their experiments on quantum entanglement and reality manipulation. Among them, a personal log from Isabella appeared. Ethan played the recording, and her familiar voice filled the room, layered with notes of determination and fatigue. If you are hearing this, you have unlocked the secrets of the Nexus, but our journey is not over. The artifact is a key, a Nexus itself, capable of bridging dimensions. Ethan, if you are listening, you must find me. I have seen realities unfold that are beyond explanation. We are on the brink of something unparalleled. Ethan paused the recording, staring at the artifact. It was more than just a map. It was a device capable of initiating a quantum leap to different realities. The artifact felt heavier now, filled with potential and danger. He knew the risks, but the necessity of finding Isabella and understanding her discoveries was paramount. As he recalibrated the artifact, using the instructions and data from Isabella's log, a sense of urgency enveloped him. The console displayed a sequence of coordinates, each representing a thread in the multiverse. Ethan aligned the artifact accordingly, taking a deep breath before initiating the leap. In an instant, the room around him dissolved into a maelstrom of light and energy. He felt the familiar pull of the quantum stream, yet this time, the experience was more visceral, more disorienting. The leap seemed longer, the journey through the vast web of realities more complex. When the world reformed around him, Ethan found himself in what appeared to be the same lab, but in a state of disarray. Equipment was overturned, papers scattered, and an alarm blared somewhere in the distance. He steadied himself, recognizing this was not a mere spatial transition, but temporal as well. He had jumped to another point in time. Ethan's heart pounded as he ventured deeper into the lab. The sense of urgency amplified with each step as he realized the chaos wasn't random. It was a result of an experiment gone wrong. And at the center of it all, he finally found Isabella. She was focused, working frenetically at a console, her expression a mix of desperation and tenacity. "Isabella!" he called out, his voice cutting through the cacophony. Isabella turned, her eyes widening in recognition and surprise. "Ethan? How?" Her words were cut off by an explosion of sparks from the console. "There's no time to explain," he shouted, rushing to her side. "We need to stabilize the quantum field now." Together, they manipulated the controls, synchronizing their efforts to reverse the damage. The artifact, now glowing more intensely, responded to their combined inputs, gradually bringing the chaotic energy back under control. Minutes felt like hours, but eventually the alarms ceased, and the room settled into a tense calm. Breathing heavily, Isabella looked at Ethan with a mixture of relief and bewilderment. "You made the leap," she said, her voice filled with awe. He nodded, holding up the artifact. "I followed your clues. I had to find you. What happened?" She sighed, glancing around at the wreckage. "We pushed too far. The experiments, the leaps, they led us to understand our reality is just one of many. But bridging them has consequences. We need to figure this out before it's too late." Ethan understood the gravity of her words. The artifact had brought them together, but it was now a race against time to master its power and prevent the unraveling of their very fabric of reality. Their journey was only beginning, with countless unknowns yet to face. United by their quest and the challenges ahead, Ethan and Isabella embraced their newfound alliance, ready to confront the quantum paradox that lay before them. Chapter 4. The Cipher. The lab's silence was now punctuated by the gentle hum of cooling machinery, a stark contrast to the chaos of moments before. Ethan and Isabella took a moment to catch their breath, their minds swiftly shifting to what lay ahead. They knew that their journey was far from over. The path back home was riddled with complexities and unknown variables. Ethan glanced at Isabella, who, despite the wariness etched on her face, carried a glimmer of determination in her eyes. "You mentioned understanding more about our reality through these leaps," he began. "How do we harness that knowledge to get back home?" Isabella tightened her grip on the console's edge. "It won't be straightforward. The artifact has the ability to navigate between dimensions, but we need to pinpoint the exact coordinates of our home timeline. I left clues throughout my research, encrypted in my notes. We need to decode them, and time is not on our side." Ethan nodded, his analytical mind already shifting gears. "Where do we start?" Isabella moved to a nearby cabinet, retrieving a series of battered notebooks and a hollow projector. "In here," she said, spreading the notebooks and activating the projector. Holographic displays of complex equations and symbolic representations filled the air. "There's a cipher encoded within my research. It's a layered code that uses quantum variables and theoretical algorithms." Ethan's eyes scanned the projections, his thoughts racing. A cipher hidden within quantum variables. It's as if each leap we take is a key in unlocking the next step of the journey. Brilliant, but also incredibly intricate. Their combined expertise made the task feasible, though daunting. They split the work, Ethan focusing on the theoretical algorithms while Isabella interpreted the quantum variables. Hours turned into days as they pored over the encrypted notes, finding hints and solutions hidden within layers of data. One night, as they were deep into their work, Ethan stumbled upon a recurring pattern, a sequence of symbols that seemed to appear at critical points in the research. "Isabella, look at this," he said, excitedly pointing to the holograph. "This pattern, it's present in all the key moments of your notes. Could it be a foundational part of the cipher?" Isabella's eyes lit up as she examined the sequence. "Yes, I see it now. It's a quantum marker, acting as a reference point within the multiverse coordinates. If we can decode this sequence, it might lead us to an anchor point in our home timeline." With newfound focus, they decoded the sequence. The pattern unveiled a series of nested coordinates and equations that aligned with the artifact's navigation system. Each decoded segment brought them closer to pinpointing their true home. Then, on what felt like the cusp of a breakthrough, Isabella found a final message, one buried so deeply within the data that it was almost imperceptible. It was a personal note, transcending the mere formality of research documentation. "Ethan," she read aloud softly, "if you're reading this, I'm proud of how far you've come. This last part of the cipher contains my final coordinates. Use them to guide you." Ethan felt a lump in his throat. She believed in us, even then. Using the final coordinates, they realigned the artifact one last time. The room's ambient hum grew into a resonant symphony of energy and light as the device activated. "Ready?" Isabella asked, her hand hovering over the initiation switch. "Ready," Ethan confirmed, bracing himself. With a resolute nod, Isabella activated the artifact. The machinery roared to life, enveloping them in an intense field of energy. The quantum leap commenced, dragging Ethan and Isabella through a cascade of realities, a visual symphony of timelines intersecting and diverging. Moments later, they found themselves standing in a familiar yet distinct lab. The ambience, the equipment, and the palpable sense of home hit them simultaneously. They had made it. The readouts around them confirmed it. This was their timeline. Exhausted but exhilarated, they embraced the reality they had fought so hard to return to. Their return was only the beginning, though. The knowledge and experience they had gathered would redefine everything they understood about quantum physics and the multiverse. As they stood together, facing the boundless potential of their research, Ethan knew they had not only solved the cipher, but unlocked new realms of discovery, forever changing their place in the quantum enigma. The paradox had been confronted, but its mysteries beckoned them onward. Chapter 5: Hostile Entities. The return to their own timeline was supposed to be a moment of relief, a triumphant resolution to their journey through the tangled web of realities. However, as Ethan and Isabella began to recalibrate their equipment and document their findings, an unsettling feeling crept over them. The air seemed heavier, as if charged with an oppressive energy. As they worked, strange anomalies started to appear on their screens, pulses of energy, disruptions in the quantum field. It didn't take long for Isabella to realize what was happening. "Ethan," she said, her voice tinged with alarm, "we've triggered something. These fluctuations, they're not random." Ethan frowned, analyzing the data. They seemed to be originating from points of convergence in the timelines. It's almost as if... Before he could finish, a piercing alarm blared through the lab. The lights dimmed, and an eerie spectral glow enveloped the room. From the distorted shadows emerged figures, tall, ethereal beings whose forms seemed to flicker in and out of existence. "Dimensional guardians," Isabella whispered, her eyes wide with realization and fear. "I feared something like this might exist, beings that maintain the balance between realities." The Guardians moved with an unsettling grace, their forms shimmering with a spectrum of colors that seemed otherworldly. Their eyes, or what could be perceived as eyes, glowed with an intense, penetrating light. One of them stepped forward, its voice echoing both audibly and telepathically. "Intruders in the fabric of existence," it intoned. "You have crossed boundaries that must remain sealed." Isabella stepped forward, attempting to reason with them. "We're scientists. We mean no harm. We were only seeking to understand the nature of the multiverse." "Understanding at the cost of harmony," another Guardian's voice resonated. "The balance of realities is delicate. Every leap, every breach brings instability. For that, there must be retribution." Ethan felt a cold dread seep into his bones. "We didn't know," he pleaded. "We only wanted to return home." The first Guardian's form flickered ominously. "The price of your transgressions will be paid." With a swift, fluid motion, they converged on Ethan and Isabella, their energies forming a tight, pulsating barrier around the two scientists. Desperate, Ethan clutched the artifact that had brought them home. It was still humming with the residual energy of their leap. "Isabella, the artifact," he shouted. "It's our only chance." Understanding flashed in Isabella's eyes, and together they activated the artifact. It emitted a blinding pulse of light, temporarily disrupting the Guardian's form. The Guardians recoiled, their shapes distorting and shifting. The barrier around Ethan and Isabella began to falter. "We need to find a way to stabilize the balance without causing further breaches," Isabella said urgently. "The artifact has the power to reset, to close the pathways we've opened." They worked swiftly, feeding new coordinates and equations into the artifact, aiming to seal the fabric of their reality without causing more upheavals. The Guardians, recovering from the shock, began to close in once more, their forms becoming more defined and menacing. With a final input, the artifact glowed intensely, its energy reaching a crescendo. Just as the Guardians were about to strike, a wave of stabilizing energy surged out, enveloping the lab and beyond, patching the rifts in the quantum fabric. The Guardians paused, their forms wavering, as if assessing the change. "The balance is restored," one of them acknowledged, the menace in its voice subsiding slightly. "But your actions have consequences. This act of mending will not erase the memory of your transgression." The energy field around Isabella and Ethan dissipated, the Guardians slowly retreating into the shadows. The oppressive weight lifted, leaving a charged silence in its wake. As the lab's normal lighting restored and the alarms ceased, Ethan and Isabella collapsed against the consoles, exhausted but alive. "We did it," Ethan said, breathless. "We closed the breaches." "But the Guardians," Isabella noted, her eyes still haunted by the encounter, "they'll always be watching. We've tampered with the fundamental structure of our reality. We must tread carefully from now on." Ethan nodded, understanding the gravity of their situation. They had returned home, but the knowledge they carried was now both a gift and a burden. The quantum paradox had not only exposed them to the infinite possibilities of the multiverse, but also to its ever-present guardians. Their work was far from over, but one thing was certain: they would never again underestimate the delicate balance of the realities they explored. The encounter had left an indelible mark, a reminder that in the vast, intricate tapestry of the multiverse, even the smallest ripple could awaken powerful, ancient forces keeping watch over the quantum continuum. Chapter 6: Hidden Allies. The encounter with the Dimensional Guardians had left Ethan and Isabella shaken, their victory over the breaches overshadowed by the ominous promise of eternal surveillance. As they began to regroup, an unexpected vibration resonated through the lab, followed by a series of low, rhythmic knocks on the far wall. Ethan's eyes met Isabella's, their silent communication instantly translating the same cautious curiosity. Carefully, Isabella approached the source of the sound, fingers trailing over the metallic surface. A hidden panel slid open, revealing a narrow, dimly lit passageway. "Who could be behind this?" Ethan questioned, peering into the shadows. Isabella's expression hardened with determination. "We have to find out. It's not a coincidence that this appears now. Our actions have drawn attention from more than just the Guardians." Together they stepped into the passageway, the door sliding shut behind them with a soft hiss. The corridor led them through a maze of twisting paths and hidden alcoves, the environment becoming increasingly industrial and makeshift. Finally, they emerged into a large underground chamber, bustling with activity. The room was filled with people, some at workstations analyzing data, others maintaining equipment or discussing strategies. The atmosphere was one of organized chaos, driven by a shared purpose. A figure detached themselves from the crowd and approached. "Welcome," said a woman with a commanding presence, her eyes sharp and observant. "We've been expecting you." "Who are you?" Isabella asked, suspicion and curiosity mingling in her voice. The woman extended a hand in greeting. "I'm Dr. Elena Kwan, leader of the Quantum Resistance. We've been fighting against the constraints imposed by the Guardians for years, trying to explore the true potential of our reality. Your arrival hasn't gone unnoticed." Elena led Ethan and Isabella deeper into the chamber, explaining as they walked. "Our world is one of many that have experienced the repression of knowledge by the Guardians. They seek to maintain a rigid order, but in doing so, they hinder the advancement of understanding. We believe in the freedom to explore and discover." As they gathered around a large holographic table displaying multiple realities and temporal pathways, Elena continued, "Your work in quantum mechanics and the breaches you created caught our attention. We knew we had to reach out before the Guardians did more than just threaten." Ethan's mind whirred with the implications. "You've been watching us. How did you know we wouldn't be hostile?" "We've been monitoring various versions of you and Dr. Clarke across different timelines," Elena admitted. "Your intentions have always been pure, driven by curiosity and the pursuit of knowledge. That's something we share." Isabella's tense posture relaxed slightly. "So, what can we do together? The Guardians are a constant threat. How can we continue our research without further jeopardizing our safety or the balance of realities?" Elena glanced around the room, her expression resolute. "We've developed ways of masking our activities from the Guardians, using countermeasures that blend our presence with the quantum noise of the multiverse. With our technology and your research, we can push the boundaries safely and discover more than we ever could alone." Ethan and Isabella exchanged a look, a silent agreement passing between them. "We're in," Ethan said, voicing their mutual decision. "But we'll need to understand your methods and technology. We'll need to cooperate closely." Over the following days, the Resistance fighters introduced Ethan and Isabella to their advanced cloaking technology and analytical tools. The combination of their world's technologies created a synergy neither had anticipated. Together, they began to decode more of the multiverse's secrets, making cautious leaps and further mending any disruptions. One evening, as they worked late in the chamber, Elena approached with a serious expression. "We've intercepted a disturbing signal. The Guardians are mobilizing in greater numbers, likely preparing for stronger actions. We need to be prepared for anything." Isabella nodded, her resolve firm. "We've come too far to turn back now. If we're to continue, we must ensure that our actions don't just protect us, but also contribute to the ultimate freedom of knowledge across all realities." Ethan felt a surge of determination. "Whatever it takes, we'll be ready. We have allies now. We're not alone in this fight." With the support of the Quantum Resistance, Ethan and Isabella stood on the cusp of unprecedented discovery and danger. Their alliance was a beacon of hope against the Guardians' oppressive control, and together they would navigate the treacherous waters of the quantum multiverse. As they faced the looming threats, one thing became clear. The true paradox lay not just in the quantum mechanics they studied, but in the intertwined fates and infinite possibilities of those daring enough to question the very nature of reality itself. Chapter 7: The Bridge. Under the subterranean shelter of the Quantum Resistance's headquarters, plans were taking shape. The alliance between Ethan, Isabella, and the Resistance fighters had proven more fruitful than any of them had dared to hope. Yet, their newfound cooperation had also unearthed a daunting challenge: the need to build a stable bridge between their two realities. Dr. Elena Kwan, Ethan, and Isabella gathered around the central holographic table, a complex display of data and theoretical models flickering before them. The air hummed with anticipation and the low murmur of hundreds of minds working in concert. "We need a bridge," Not just a pathway that can be traversed momentarily, but a stable conduit between the two realities, Ethan said, pointing to an intricate diagram of intersecting quantum fields. Elena nodded. A bridge will allow us to exchange information and resources freely. It must be stable enough to withstand the Guardian's scrutiny, but flexible enough to adapt to the fluctuations in the quantum fabric. Isabella leaned in, her finger tracing the lines of the model. The key lies in the quantum anchor points and maintaining a harmonic resonance between them. If these points can be synchronized, we can create a stable two-way bridge. Agreed, Elena said, but we must ensure our operations remain hidden. The Guardians' interference is a risk we cannot afford. Their plan was ambitious. Building the bridge required precise calculations and the fabrication of quantum resonators, devices that could maintain the required harmonic resonance across dimensions. Resistance engineers and scientists collaborated with Ethan and Isabella, pooling their knowledge and resources. Days blurred into nights as they worked tirelessly. The laboratory became a hub of relentless activity, the resonance of determined minds and hearts echoing through their makeshift halls. The artifacts, engines, and tools combined elements from both worlds, blending to form the sophisticated machinery needed to actualize the bridge. Finally, the day arrived. The quantum resonators were complete, a series of elegant, intricate devices that pulsed with subdued energy. Ethan and Isabella stood before the group, flanked by Elena and key resistance members, ready to unveil their creation. The resonators are ready, Isabella announced. They will emit a harmonic frequency that will stabilize the bridge and ensure both realities remain in sync. Elena stepped forward, her confidence tempered with caution. We'll deploy the resonators at key anchor points in both realities. Once activated, the bridge should form, a stable, two-way conduit. This is our most significant step yet, a leap into the unknown. With meticulous precision, the teams transported and deployed the resonators. The final device, a master resonator, was positioned at the core of the Resistance's chamber, the focal point around which the bridge would form. Isabella took a deep breath, her hand hovering over the activation switch. Beside her, Ethan gave a reassuring nod. Together, she whispered, and with that, she initiated the sequence. The chamber thrummed with an escalating energy, the resonators glowing brighter as they synchronized. Streams of light and quantum particles danced between the devices, weaving a luminous web of connections. The air crackled, the space around them warping as the bridge began to form. Outside the chamber, the fabric of the two realities shimmered, points of intersection glowing and stabilizing. The Guardians, sensing the change, reappeared, their forms flickering but hesitant. It was as if they were waiting, assessing the stability of the new construct. Elena's voice cut through the intensity. Hold the frequency steady. We must prove to the Guardians that this bridge holds the balance without disruption. The resonators responded, adjusting and fine-tuning their output to maintain the harmonic balance. Slowly, the shimmering connections solidified, glowing with a soft, stable light. The Guardians watched, their forms more defined but no longer threatening. Ethan and Isabella felt the palpable shift. The bridge was holding. A sense of awe and triumph washed over them. The conduit of information and resources now spanned the two realities, a testament to their relentless pursuit of knowledge and unity. As the energy settled, the Guardians began to fade, their presence diminishing. It was a silent acknowledgement of the balance restored and maintained. Elena turned to the group, pride and hope evident in her eyes. The bridge stands, not just as a connection between our worlds, but as a symbol of what we can achieve together. This is a new beginning. The room erupted in a murmur of relief and excitement. The possibilities that lay ahead were endless, their efforts paving the way for unprecedented discoveries and advancements. Ethan and Isabella, standing at the forefront of this monumental achievement, exchanged a look filled with shared triumph and unspoken promises. They had navigated the quantum paradox, faced its guardians, and now they had built a bridge connecting their realities. As they looked ahead, the complex tapestry of their intertwined fates and infinite possibilities shimmered with potential, drawing them onward into a future they would shape together. Chapter 8. Temporal Trap. The bridge between the two realities was nothing short of a marvel, a shimmering pathway that held the promise of endless collaboration and discovery. For days, Ethan and Isabella reveled in their success, working closely with the quantum resistance to optimize the flow of information and resources. Yet, as with all great endeavors, unforeseen challenges lurk in the shadows. One quiet afternoon, Ethan and Isabella prepared to make a routine crossing back to their original timeline. They gathered their notes and equipment, ready to test how well the bridge handled sustained travel. Elena stood by, ensuring the resonators maintained their harmonic balance. "Are you ready?" Ethan asked Isabella, his voice tinged with both excitement and caution. "As ready as I'll ever be," she replied, giving him a determined nod. They stepped into the heart of the bridge, a corridor of light and energy that stretched infinitely before them. With a final glance back at Elena, who gave them an encouraging nod, they walked forward. The crossing began smoothly, the bridge's energy enveloping them in a comforting glow. But as they progressed, a strange feeling washed over them, the sensation that time itself was bending and warping around them. The once stable light began to flicker erratically, distorted images flashing past them. Ethan's heart pounded as a sudden realization hit him. "Isabella, something's wrong. The bridge, it's destabilizing." Isabella felt it too, the disorienting effect of time spiraling around them. "We need to return now," she shouted over the growing hum of chaos. They tried to turn back, but the pathway seemed to stretch endlessly in all directions, trapping them in a shifting maze of timelines. Each step they took felt like they were moving through molasses, time slowing and speeding up unpredictably. "We must have triggered a temporal trap," Ethan said, his voice strained as he fought against the temporal distortion. "The Guardians, they must have anticipated this and set it to prevent long-term crossings." Isabella's mind raced. "We need to stabilize our position. The resonators, if we can synchronize our quantum signatures to them, we might be able to reset the bridge and escape the trap." Working through the disorienting effects, they activated their portable resonator devices, hoping to establish a stable link with the main resonators back at the Resistance's headquarters. The devices hummed to life, emitting a steady, harmonic frequency that seemed to push back the temporal distortions. Slowly, the chaotic warping eased, the bridge's light stabilizing around them. They could still feel the trap's lingering effects, but were able to navigate back toward the starting point. Each step was a struggle, but their determination remained unwavering. Finally, they emerged from the distorted corridor, stumbling back into the Resistance's chamber. The energy field dissipated around them, their breaths ragged and hearts racing. Elena and the others quickly surrounded them, concern etched on their faces. "What happened?" Elena asked, her voice urgent. Ethan steadied himself, his eyes meeting hers. "A temporal trap. The Guardians anticipated our prolonged use of the bridge and set a safeguard to ensnare us in a temporal distortion." Isabella nodded, still catching her breath. "We managed to stabilize our quantum signatures with the portable resonators, but the trap is a severe threat. We need to find a way to neutralize it if we're to continue using the bridge safely." Elena's expression hardened with resolve. "We'll upgrade the resonators and devise a new safeguard against the temporal distortions. The Guardians think they can control the balance of reality, but we won't let them stifle our progress." Over the following days, the Resistance's engineers and scientists worked tirelessly alongside Ethan and Isabella. They enhanced the resonators, integrating new algorithms to counteract the temporal traps. The bridge's design was reevaluated, ensuring its stability and security against future interferences. But the shadows of the Guardians' influence lingered, a constant reminder that their quest for knowledge and connection was not without peril. Ethan and Isabella's resolve deepened. The trap had only strengthened their determination to push beyond the boundaries imposed upon them. With their upgraded technology and fortified bridge, they prepared for another crossing, aware that each step forward was a defiance of the Guardians' control. They were explorers in a vast, intertwined multiverse, navigating a path fraught with danger and discovery. As they stood before the newly stabilized bridge, ready to embark once more, they knew the journey ahead would be more challenging than ever. Yet, with the Resistance and each other by their side, they faced the quantum paradox with unyielding courage and hope. determined to unlock the endless possibilities that lay beyond. Chapter 9. Double Identity. The upgraded bridge held steady, a testament to the ingenuity and collaboration between Ethan, Isabella, and the quantum resistance. Confident in the improved stability, they prepared for another crossing, this time to gather critical data from a parallel universe that could further enhance their understanding of the multiverse. As they stepped into the corridor of shimmering light, the journey felt smoother, more controlled, the enhanced resonators doing their job. They emerged into a reality that, at first glance, looked almost identical to their own. Bell Institute stood majestically before them, its familiar presence a deceptively comforting sight. "We need to find the alternate Isabella," Ethan said, his eyes scanning their surroundings. "Her research could provide invaluable insights." Isabella nodded, her expression thoughtful. "But we need to approach this with caution. The alternate version of me might not share our objectives or our ethics." They navigated the familiar hallways, noticing subtle differences in the architecture and the technology that hinted at this universe's unique advancements. After some careful inquiries and a bit of subterfuge, they located Dr. Isabella Clarke's lab. As they entered, the alternate Isabella looked up from her work, her eyes narrowing with a mix of suspicion and curiosity. The resemblance was uncanny. Same sharp features, same determined gaze, but there was a harder edge to her demeanor, a sense of authority and control that contrasted with the collaborative spirit of the Isabella who stood beside Ethan. "Who are you?" the alternate Isabella demanded, her voice steady but charged with intensity. Original Isabella stepped forward, her hands raised in a gesture of peace. "I'm you, from a parallel universe. We need your help to understand the quantum paradox and ensure the stability of our realities." Alternate Isabella's eyes widened slightly, a flicker of recognition crossing her face. "I see. So you've built a bridge too. But why should I help you? What's in it for me?" Ethan stepped in, sensing the tension. "We share the same goals, to push the boundaries of knowledge and protect the integrity of our realities. Collaboration could benefit us all." The alternate Isabella's gaze shifted between them, calculating. "I've been working on my own research, and I've made significant breakthroughs. But there's something you need to understand. Our realities are not just parallel, they're competitive. Resources, stability, even existence, these are finite. Helping you might compromise my own timeline." Original Isabella's expression hardened. "That's where you're wrong. It's not a zero-sum game. By working together, we can ensure the stability of all realities. The Guardians have already set traps to control us. We need to unite against such existential threats." The alternate Isabella's eyes softened briefly, a crack in her hardened facade. "The Guardians. They've interfered here too. We have been at odds with them for years, trying to keep their influence at bay." Ethan seized the moment. "Precisely. With your knowledge and our advances in the resonators, we can create a network of stable bridges, allowing for resource sharing, collective research, and mutual protection." For a long moment, the alternate Isabella seemed lost in thought, weighing the risks and benefits. Finally, she nodded. "Very well. We'll share our findings, but this alliance must be on equal terms. I won't compromise my timeline's integrity for the sake of yours." A tense but hopeful understanding was reached. Over the next few days, both Isabellas worked side by side, comparing notes, sharing data, and realizing just how much their combined expertise could achieve. The lab thrummed with a synergy that bridged their differences, a testament to the potential within collaboration. However, not all was harmonious. The alternate Isabella's ambition and willingness to take risks often clashed with the original Isabella's cautious, ethical approach. Tensions simmered beneath the surface, each instance of conflict a reminder of how fragile their alliance was. One evening, as they worked late into the night, the alternate Isabella broached a delicate subject. "There's a project I've been developing. It's dangerous, but could fast-track our objectives. A controlled temporal displacement, essentially a method to manipulate time within a localized field. What do you think?" Original Isabella frowned, her ethical concerns flaring. "Temporal manipulation? That's incredibly risky. The potential for catastrophic error is too high." The alternate Isabella's eyes narrowed. Sometimes, risks must be taken for the sake of progress. Ethan could sense the escalating tension. We need to ensure that any such projects are thoroughly vetted. Rushing into it could destabilize more than just our timelines. Reluctantly, the alternate Isabella conceded, but the unease remained. Their double identity led to double-edged collaboration, each breakthrough accompanied by the shadow of conflicting motives. As their time in the alternate reality drew to a close, they had gathered invaluable data and made significant strides. Yet, underlying it all was the awareness of their delicate balance, an alliance of necessity, fraught with challenges and uncertainties. They prepared to cross back, each step heavy with the knowledge of what lay ahead. The bridge awaited, shimmering with potential, yet shadowed by the lessons learned. The duality of their identities and motives would continue to shape their journey. The quantum paradox, a constant dance between unity and divergence. As they stepped into the corridor of light, ready to return, Ethan's mind buzzed with possibilities. The road ahead was uncertain, but their resolve remained unbroken. In the vast expanse of the multiverse, their journey had only just begun, each step a testament to the complexity and wonder of their intertwined fates. Chapter 10: The Betrayal. The bridge returned Ethan and Isabella to their original timeline, the familiar surroundings of the Bell Institute offering a brief respite from the relentless pace of their journey. For a moment, the tranquil ambiance of their lab felt comforting, but the alliance with the alternate Isabella had left them both with a lingering unease. The risks and ethical dilemmas had been a stark reminder of the fragile nature of their mission. As they pored over the new data and integrated the advanced technologies gleaned from the alternate reality, the Resistance's headquarters buzzed with renewed energy. The advancements they made were significant, pushing the boundaries of what was previously thought possible. One individual who had been especially instrumental throughout their journey was Dr. Marcus Reed, a brilliant scientist whose calm demeanor and sharp intellect had earned him their trust. Marcus had been pivotal in decoding the cipher, stabilizing the resonators, and ensuring the integrity of the bridge. His insights had often been a guiding light through the murky waters of their explorations. As the project grew, Isabella and Ethan began to notice subtle changes in Marcus. His contributions became more cautious, his presence more secretive. It started as small, almost imperceptible shifts: documents missing, equipment not quite as they had left it, and a general sense of something amiss. One evening, after a particularly taxing day of research, Ethan decided to share his concerns with Isabella. "Something's off with Marcus," he said, his brow furrowed. "He's been acting strangely, and I've noticed inconsistencies in his reports." Isabella sighed, rubbing her temples. "I felt it too, but Marcus has been crucial to our success. We need to approach this delicately. We can't afford to alienate him if we're wrong." Together, they devised a plan to subtly monitor Marcus's activities, hoping to uncover the truth without raising suspicions. Days turned into a tense waiting game, the air thick with anxiety and distrust. Their vigilance paid off one night when Ethan, under the guise of searching for a misplaced file, discovered an encrypted message in Marcus's personal terminal. A few hours of delicate decryption revealed a shocking revelation. Marcus had been communicating with the Guardians. Ethan's heart pounded in his chest as he showed the message to Isabella. "He's been feeding them information. He's compromised our security." Isabella felt a cold surge of betrayal. "We need to confront him now. If he's turned against us, he could jeopardize everything." They found Marcus in one of the secluded labs, engrossed in his work. He looked up, a shadow of guilt crossing his face as he noticed their expressions. "Is there something you want to tell us, Marcus?" Isabella's voice was steady, but the underlying tension was unmistakable. Marcus hesitated, his eyes flicking towards the exit. I did what I thought was necessary. The Guardians approached me, offered me protection in exchange for information. They promised to leave our timeline stable if I cooperated." Ethan's anger flared. "You betrayed us. Do you realize the risks you've posed to our mission and to the multiverse itself?" Marcus's face twisted with a mix of defiance and regret. "You don't understand. The Guardians are more powerful than we can comprehend. I thought if I played along, I could shield us from their wrath." Isabella stepped forward, her eyes blazing. "You didn't shield us, Marcus. You undermined everything we've worked for. The Guardians' promises are empty. They seek control, not cooperation. Nathan finally spoke, his voice a mix of betrayal and resolve. You've left us no choice. We have to secure the data and reset the safeguards. The Guardians know too much now. As they moved to detain Marcus, he made a desperate attempt to escape, triggering an alarm. The once secure lab erupted into chaos, the betrayal's implications rippling through their ranks. Working swiftly, Ethan accessed the main console, initiating an emergency lockdown to prevent any further data compromise. We need to isolate the lab and neutralize any vulnerabilities he's exposed, he shouted over the blaring alarms. Isabella joined him, her fingers dancing over the controls. Together, they activated the quantum failsafe protocols, sealing the bridge and encrypting their data anew. Meanwhile, Elena and the resistance fighters apprehended Marcus, their faces a mix of anger and disbelief. He had been a friend, a trusted ally, and his betrayal cut deeply. Once the immediate threat was contained and the lab secured, the alarms ceased, leaving a heavy silence. Ethan and Isabella turned to face their team, a mixture of determination and sorrow in their eyes. We will not let this betrayal destroy us, Isabella declared. We've come too far, achieved too much. Marcus's actions have shown us the lengths our enemies will go to, but it also strengthens our resolve to continue. Ethan nodded, his expression firm. We must remain vigilant, more united than ever. The multiverse holds endless possibilities, but also countless dangers. Together, we will navigate these challenges, ensuring the integrity of our mission and the protection of our realities. As they regrouped and fortified their defenses, a renewed sense of purpose and unity emerged. The betrayal had been a harsh reminder of the stakes involved, but it also reaffirmed their commitment to their cause. In the vast, intertwined expanse of the multiverse, their journey continued, each step forward a testament to their resilience and unwavering determination. The quantum paradox remained, a complex dance of discovery and danger, but with their hearts and minds united, they faced the unknown, ready to unlock the infinite possibilities that lay ahead. Chapter 11: Quantum Collapse. After Marcus's betrayal, the team at Bell Institute and the Quantum Resistance were on high alert. The necessary precautions had been taken to secure their work, but the ripples of distrust still lingered. The integration of data and technology continued, yet an underlying tension pervaded their every move. Days of tireless work turned into weeks. As the team focused on fine-tuning their avoidance protocols and safeguarding their network against further intrusions, an unsettling phenomenon began to emerge. The bridge, once a stable and shimmering conduit, started exhibiting erratic behavior. Pulses of chaotic energy surged intermittently, sending alarm bells ringing through the laboratory. Ethan and Isabella, now recognizing the severity of the issue, convened a meeting with Elena and the other resistance leaders. We're facing significant instability between our two realities, Ethan began, his tone grave. The fluctuations are growing, and if we don't address them, it could lead to a catastrophic collapse. Elena's eyes narrowed, her mind racing as she processed the gravity of the situation. What's causing this instability? Is it a consequence of the betrayal, or something more intrinsic to the bridge itself? Isabella looked around the room, her expression a blend of concern and determination. It's both. Marcus's betrayal accelerated the instability, but the root cause lies in the quantum synchronization of our realities. Despite our efforts, the bridge's resonance is faltering, and the Guardian's interference has only compounded the issue. We need to isolate and neutralize the source, Ethan added. The bridge must be stabilized before it reaches a point of no return. Hours turned into an intense brainstorm as the team analyzed data and formulated a plan of action. The solution required intricate recalibration of the quantum resonators and a deeper understanding of the underlying quantum mechanics that governed their realities. Isabella proposed a daring approach. We need to construct a harmonic stabilizer, a device that can balance the quantum frequencies of both universes simultaneously. If we can synchronize the harmonic waves, we might avert the collapse. Elena looked skeptical but determined. That's an incredibly ambitious task. How long do we have before the instability becomes irreversible? Ethan glanced at the data readouts. At this rate, we have no more than a week. Time is against us, but it's not insurmountable. Let's get to work. The laboratory buzzed with frenetic activity as scientists and engineers collaborated on the design and construction of the harmonic stabilizer. The tension was palpable, each team member acutely aware of the stakes. The very fabric of their realities hung in the balance. As they worked, the fluctuations grew more frequent. The bridge's energy became increasingly volatile, making intermittent travel and communication nearly impossible. Information that once flowed seamlessly was now fragmented and distorted. One night, as the team neared completion of the stabilizer, a particularly violent surge rocked the lab. Equipment short-circuited, and alarms blared as the bridge momentarily destabilized. Ethan and Isabella rushed to the control console, their faces etched with determination. "We're running out of time," Isabella said through gritted teeth, her fingers flying over the controls to contain the surge. "We need to activate the stabilizer now, or everything we've worked for will be lost." With a series of final adjustments, the harmonic stabilizer was ready. The team gathered around as Ethan and Isabella prepared to initiate the device. Elena stood beside them, her expression a mix of hope and resolve. "Once the stabilizer is active, it will produce a harmonic wave that should recalibrate the quantum frequencies of both realities," Ethan explained, his voice steady. "If successful, it will neutralize the instability and prevent the collapse." Isabella took a deep breath, her hand hovering over the activation switch. "This is it," she said softly. "The culmination of our efforts. Let's save our realities." With a decisive motion, she activated the stabilizer. The device emitted a low hum, quickly escalating into a resonant frequency that pulsed through the lab. The bridge's chaotic energy began to subside, the previously erratic surges smoothing into a harmonious rhythm. The team watched in awe as the bridge stabilized, its light returning to the steady, luminous glow they had worked so hard to achieve. The harmonic waves propagated through the quantum fabric, synchronizing the frequencies of both universes. As the harmonics reached their peak, the Guardians reappeared, their forms shimmering with a mixture of curiosity and benign intent. The stability seemed to have pacified them, at least for the moment. Elena turned to Ethan and Isabella, a smile breaking through her tense demeanor. "You did it. The bridge is stable, and the collapse averted. This is a monumental achievement." Ethan nodded, his relief palpable. "We've bought ourselves time, but we must remain vigilant. The quantum fabric is delicate, and any further instability could have dire consequences." Isabella's eyes softened, hope mingling with caution. "We've faced incredible challenges and emerged stronger. Our journey is far from over, but this victory reaffirms our commitment. Together, we'll navigate whatever comes next." As the team celebrated their hard-earned success, the future shimmered with possibility. The quantum collapse had been averted, but the path ahead remained fraught with challenges and discoveries. United in their resolve, they looked forward, ready to explore the infinite expanse of the multiverse and unlock its secrets, one step at a time. Chapter 12. Resolution. The harmonic stabilizer had bought them time, but the delicate balance between the two realities remained precarious. The bridge held steady, but the ever-present threat of instability loomed like a shadow over their every endeavor. The team at Bell Institute and the quantum resistance understood that this reprieve was temporary. A permanent solution had to be found. As days turned into an unrelenting blur of work, Isabella harnessed every ounce of her determination. The answer, she believed, lay in a final, desperate bid to recalibrate the core frequency of their reality, a task fraught with potential catastrophe, but promising a lasting resolution if successful. "The core frequency," Ethan said, pacing the lab, "it's the foundational resonance of our reality. If we can recalibrate it, we might be able to establish a new stable equilibrium. But the risks?" Isabella nodded, her eyes resolute. "I know the risks, but we have no choice. This is our last chance to restore balance and ensure the safety of both realities." Elena stepped forward, her expression a blend of concern and trust. "We're with you. Whatever you need, we'll make it happen." The plan was set into motion. A specialized quantum recalibrator was designed to emit a pulse strong enough to realign the core frequency. It would require precise synchronization with the bridge's harmonic waves, a feat that demanded absolute precision. As the recalibrator was constructed and tested, tensions ran high. The Guardians, sensing the magnitude of their efforts, remained ominously absent, their silence a reminder of the high stakes. Finally, the day arrived. The recalibrator was positioned at the heart of the bridge, its sleek form humming with latent energy. Ethan and Isabella stood before it, their resolve steely. "Once we initiate the recalibration, there's no turning back," Ethan said, his voice steady. "We must be prepared for any outcome." Isabella met his gaze. "We've faced impossible odds before. This time, we're not just fighting for our world, but for the countless possibilities that lie within the quantum fabric." The team gathered, a united front against the uncertainty that loomed ahead. Isabella and Ethan took their places at the control console, their fingers poised over the activation switches. With a deep breath, Isabella initiated the sequence. The recalibrator began to pulse, emitting waves of energy that intertwined with the bridge's harmonic frequency. The air vibrated with a resonant hum, the light around them flickering as the recalibration process unfolded. At first, the process seemed smooth, the pulses aligning seamlessly with the harmonic waves. But as the recalibrator reached its peak output, the fluctuations began, a violent clash of energy that threatened to tear the bridge apart. "Hold the frequency steady," Isabella shouted over the roar of the destabilizing energy. Ethan adjusted the controls, his focus unyielding. "We're close. Just a little longer." The Guardians reappeared, their forms swirling with agitation. They approached the recalibrator, their intent uncertain. But as the device emitted a final powerful pulse, the Guardians halted, their forms flickering and stabilizing in response. A blinding flash enveloped the lab, the sheer force of the recalibration thrusting them into a suspended state of consciousness. Time seemed to stretch, a moment of pure, infinite stillness before they were jolted back into reality. As the light subsided, the lab reformed around them. The recalibrator stood silent, its energy spent. The bridge, however, remained intact, its light steady and harmonious. Ethan and Isabella looked around, their breaths catching as the realization dawned. "We did it," Ethan said, his voice filled with awe. "The core frequency, it's stable." The Guardians, now solid and more defined, approached. Their presence felt different, less menacing, more respectful. One of them spoke, its voice resonating through the air. "Balance restored, pathways sustained, your perseverance has honored the quantum continuum." Elena stepped forward, addressing the Guardians with newfound confidence. "Will you allow us to continue our work in peace?" The Guardian's form shimmered with a subtle nod. "Observation persists, but interference ceases, harmony maintained." With that, the Guardians receded, their forms dissolving into the ether. The lab erupted in a mix of relieved laughter and tears. The recalibration had worked, not just stabilizing the bridge, but ensuring a lasting balance between their realities. Ethan turned to Isabella, his expression filled with admiration. "Your vision and determination made this possible. We've not only secured the present, but opened the door to a future of limitless possibilities." Isabella's eyes softened, a profound sense of accomplishment washing over her. "We've done it together. This resolution is a testament to our unity and resilience." As they gazed at the now stable bridge, the weight of their journey seemed to lift. The quantum paradox remained an intricate dance of discovery, but with the balance restored, they could step forward with hope and clarity. Their mission, once fraught with existential dangers, had transformed into a beacon of potential. United in purpose, they looked to the horizon of the multiverse, ready to explore, protect, and understand the infinite expanse that lay ahead. The resolution was not an end, but a new beginning, one filled with the promise of boundless exploration and timeless unity.